David is now 3-0 all-time against Goliath. The first time David made the giant kneel beneath him was when he took him down with a prayer and a few stones. The second time he took down Goliath was 2024 when Alabama went into Vanderbilt as the number one ranked team in the nation, and they walked out with the biggest upset loss in the history of college football. Despite being a multiple touchdown favorite over Vanderbilt in that game, the Commodores humbled the Tide. And then a few hours ago, we saw David pull off the trifecta against Goliath, slaying the giant on his knees for one last time with Florida State beating Alabama 31-17. And yes, that final score is real. It sounds hard to believe that it's real, but if you go on ESPN, Bleacher Report, The Score, any app that you use to keep up with the college football alerts and scores throughout the day, you'll see 31-17 FSU over Alabama. Before we get into criticizing Alabama, and trust me, there's going to be a lot of that, we have to praise Mike Norvell and Florida State. You talk about a turnaround, and a quick one at that, coming off the season from hell, 2-10, just fresh off winning the ACC championship. Mike Norvell has already changed the conversation about this season for Florida State. Going into this offseason, all you heard about Florida State football was, when is Mike Norvell going to get fired? Who's going to replace him? Is Florida State even going to make it to a bowl game? That's what the talk was about this team. And this wasn't a game that you are really going to use to judge what Florida State would be this year, because Alabama had a talent advantage. They had a huge coaching advantage. They were the better overall team than what Florida State was. At least that's what was thought. But there's a reason why the games were played, as they say. And Alabama, from opening kickoff to the final whistle, Florida State kicked their ass. Mike Norvell, the new coaching staff with Tony White as the defensive coordinator, Gus Malzahn as the offensive coordinator. This is one of the best coordinator duos in all of college football, and they were cooking up Alabama today. Kalen DeBoer got outcoached by Tony White, and their defensive coordinator got outcoached by Gus Malzahn. How about Tommy Castellanos, who was, without a doubt, the main reason why Florida State was unstoppable for Alabama? Tommy Castellanos is one of the most electric quarterbacks that the ACC has this year. He looks like a Dollar General version of Kyler Murray. He doesn't have the same athleticism and arm talent that Kyler has, but he's not too far off. When he runs that ball, he gets 0 to 100 really freaking fast. He's very shifty in the open field. He's just a very hard guy to get your hands on, to bring down for a tackle. And you can see a drastic improvement with how Florida State looks due to the impact of getting Tommy Castellanos. He's miles better than what DJU, Brock Glenn, Luke Kromenhawk were for this team last year. It's funny how solid quarterback play can change a lot about your team. And Tommy Castellanos, we were criticizing this dude. We were asking if this dude needed to check into Arkham Asylum when he made some comments a few months ago about how Alabama wasn't going to have Nick Saban in this game to stop him. And we all laughed at him. We said that he was giving Alabama unnecessary billboard material. Why is he saying these ridiculous things for a team that just went 2-10? Well, everything that Tommy Castellanos said, he backed up on the field. Talk is cheap. Game is game. If you're going to talk a lot of shit, you got to be able to back it up on the field. And Tommy Castellanos did that. He was just unstoppable. Third down, Alabama couldn't get Tommy Castellanos on the field. In the red zone, Tommy Castellanos was scoring. You blitz Tommy Castellanos, he was destroying you over the top. There was nothing that Tommy Castellanos couldn't do against Alabama's defense today. There was nothing that Florida State's defense couldn't do to stop Alabama's offense. Alabama's offense still has the same problems this year that they had last year. And it's funny because I put most of the blame on Jalen Milroe for how Kalen DeBoer's first season went. Well, Kalen DeBoer, he gets his tag team partner Ryan Grubb back at offensive coordinator. You're expecting for the offensive line to be improved. You are expecting for Alabama to finally be able to run the football effectively. You didn't see none of those improvements in this game against Florida State. If anything, you kind of watch this game and you might have to apologize to Jalen Milroe after. Because Jalen Milroe, there were a lot more problems than just him last year. And I'm starting to believe that Kalen DeBoer might be one of them. Now, I'm not about to bail on Kalen DeBoer because of this loss. Yes, it's disgraceful. It's despicable. Alabama should never be losing to any team that they're favored to beat by 2 touchdowns or more. But this is a gut check for Kalen DeBoer in Alabama. Sometimes a loss this shocking early during the season is the gut check that you need to get yourself in order. We saw Notre Dame lose to Northern Illinois last year and finish being in a national championship. When Michigan beat Ohio State, despite being a 3-touchdown underdog in that game, a lot of people gave up on Ohio State. They thought they were going to be an easy first or second round exit in the playoffs. They ended up making it all the way to the national championship. So it's not always about how you start, but it's about how you finish. Life is 10% about what happens to you and 90% about how you respond. How is Alabama going to respond after this loss? Alabama has the highest blue chip ratio in college football. They have the most 5 and 4 stars on their team than any other squad in college football this year, but you couldn't tell with how Florida State just dragged Alabama all throughout Doak Campbell for 3 hours today. Florida State pretty much went up to Alabama and said, give me your lunch money. Alabama said no. Florida State said, bet. We finna run them pockets. So they steal Alabama's lunch money. They put the beats on them. They stomp them. They drag Alabama's shirt over their head and continue to beat up on them, give them 2 black eyes and a wedgie to add insult to injury. Alabama, after losing to Florida State, they need to go in the closet and they need to hide for 3 days. Don't show themselves on social media. Don't even step out in public to go to the corner store to get you a Gatorade. Sleep in that closet for 3 days and come out looking like the Alabama team that we saw before Nick Saban retired. The grace period for Kalen DeBoer is over. When you're at a school like Alabama with the resources and the talent that Nick Saban has given Kalen DeBoer, it's playoffs or bust every single year. Last year's a grace period because of the situation that went on of him taking his job late, due to him not being able to bring in a true transfer portal class of his liking. Last year wasn't his team. This year is his team. And if this is what Kalen DeBoer's Alabama looks like, then they need to just go ahead and give him the pink slip early. Maybe Kalen DeBoer needs to go back to wearing T-shirts. He was out there wearing a collared shirt. And when I saw Kalen DeBoer out there wearing a collared shirt, that's when I knew Alabama was going to lose this game, because he let the fans get in his head. He heard all the criticism that the fans had about him not wearing a collared shirt, him not looking that presentable on the sidelines. Well, F presentation. How about just going out there to coach to win, not going out there to coach to look good? What's Kalen DeBoer trying to do? I'd rather T-shirt Kalen DeBoer come back. The Kalen DeBoer that wore that T-shirt was the same Kalen DeBoer that beat Kirby Smart, that blew out LSU and embarrassed Brian Kelly. Alabama only lost 1 game against ranked teams last year, so I still have a lot of faith that Kalen DeBoer can right the ship. His issue is that he plays down the competition. He never has Alabama ready to play against the ants that they are supposed to be smashing with a sledgehammer, but he always has them up for the big game. Maybe that's look ahead syndrome. Maybe Alabama was looking too far ahead and they overlooked Florida State, and that's why they got smacked in the mouth. Alabama got humbled today. Straight up. They got out coached. They got outplayed. They got out physical. They got out everything against Florida State. And it's very scary. And if you're asking me right now, what is this season going to be for Alabama? I'm still going to tell you they make it to the playoffs and they win the SEC. But I don't say that with the same level of conviction, with the same level of confidence now that I had a few weeks ago when I made that prediction. Now I do have a few question marks about Kalen DeBoer. Is he the wrong guy for this job? Is he coaching in a location that, from a personality standpoint, he just doesn't mesh well? It's the culture of Alabama just not right for the personality of Kalen DeBoer. There's a lot of questions that we have about Alabama. The same questions that we asked about Florida State around the same time last year when they lost to Georgia Tech and they lost to Boston College. You are asking yourself, is Florida State just this bad? Or are the teams that they lose into just that good? And you were asking that question about Florida State for a month and a half until you finally accept the reality that that's who Florida State was, a 2-10 team. Is Alabama the team that we saw lose to Florida State today? And if they are, I guarantee you that means they win 7-8 games, they miss the playoffs once again, and we start asking, when does Kalen DeBoer get fired? I'm not about to start out those conversations right now because there still is a lot of football to be played, but this loss was an abomination, and it was downright disgusting to watch. And I'm not even an Alabama fan, but as somebody that's a fan of the sport and somebody that had Alabama on my parlay today, I'm very, very ticked off with this loss.